Everyone, my name is Josh and Whimsical and Interesting Musings, and today I'm going to be talking about Inside Number 9. And it's pretty fair to say that Inside Number 9 is probably one of the best modern British anthology shows outside of Black Mirror. And for those of you who don't know, it was created by Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith of Psychoville and the League of Gentlemen fame. And the entire aim of the series is to tell compelling stories within a 30-minute window of time. So it's been running for 8 seasons now, and this show has shown no signs of slowing down, with memorable characters, dark humour, and plenty of shocking twists. So there are many episodes to go through, and I'm going to be giving you my top 9 favourite Inside Number 9 episodes. So let's get right into it. And my number 9 episode is Hurry Up and Wait. When actor James is tasked with playing an extra in a true-life crime drama, he has to wait in a caravan with an eccentric family. He thinks the only thing he has to worry about is flubbing his lines and not hitting his mark. But all of this changes when he believes that the oddball family that he's momentarily shacked up with is harbouring a decades-old dark secret. Now, this episode is very familiar to a lot of people who are kind of, very well versed in Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith's work. When you think of Una and Stan, you think of basically Tubbs and Edward, Tat Syrup, and David and Maureen Sour Butts from Psychoville. When you think of these characters, like the idea of basically these very, ordinary people going into this very eccentric environment, or in this, when they go into these interesting domains, they kind of, are entering a different world where in some cases they're not welcome, or they feel very kind of the eccentric characters sort of reacting to them kind of thing. So there's always this wonderful dual-handed nature to the way these sort of scenarios play out. And what really is wonderful about this setup is that it almost creates clockwork levels of cringe-worthy discomfort. And it really is a fantastically, masterfully done display of cringe humour, awkward misunderstandings, and just really funny scenarios. Like, I love the moment where James basically says, "Oh, it's a bit frustrating waiting for your moment to stand in the spotlight and everything like that." And Stan, played by Steve Pemberton, goes, "I wish my job was about waiting around. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, shoveling the shit out in the yard over there, or out in the field over there." And it just really shows a lot of great, attention to detail and a lot of commitment to the awkwardness of just real life. And it's a fantastic episode. Yes, it's a very suspenseful story with heart-racing, moments, but the humour and the characters are the things that really shine here. And it's a great episode, and it's my number 9. My number 8 is To Have and to Hold. So when the couple Harriet and Adrian are approaching their anniversary, Harriet is very overjoyed. She's played by Unforgotten and Chalk's Nicola Walker, and she's overjoyed to mark the occasion by renewing her wedding vows, whereas Adrian is more interested in his jigsaw puzzles and his pot noodles in order to pay attention to any of these things. And he's a wedding photographer, so it seems very interesting to see. He seems almost like a very boring person, and what you first think is a portrait of a disintegrating marriage soon becomes a domestic thriller in a very interesting way, as both we get to see the true side of Adrian and what he's really like, and we get to see, Nicola Walker's character of Harriet kind of initially think that she's just trapped in a very boring marriage, only to realise that there's a much more sinister development happening in plain view. Let's just say this, it's absolutely incredibly well done. They use the narrative device of naming every chapter after wedding vows, so immediately you're dreading that moment where it has that moment where it's like, oh, to death do us part, and you really are dreading that final reveal, because you're thinking, what's going to happen? Is Harriet going to die, or is, something horrible going to happen to any of the other characters? You really are constantly on the edge of your seat, but it also, incredibly gives you this sense of absolute dread and fear, and it's just so well done, and it's a fantastic episode. It's great suspense, and let's just say you'll never look at pot noodle the same way. I certainly didn't. So that's my number 8, and my number 7 is The Riddle of the Sphinx. When newbie Nina and skillful scholar Hector Squires make a play at making a crossword, what begins as a clashing of wits turns into a dreaded tale of depravity, cannibalism, and Greek mythology. This episode is wonderfully written because you really do have to pay attention to all the details, because there are constantly twists and turns developing throughout the plot, and it's just so well done and it's so well crafted. And it's probably one of my favourite episodes just for the puzzle solving alone, and really trying to figure out all the little clues that Hector Squires sets up for Nina. Like, I teach architecture in hospital building and things like that. And it's just such a great episode. It's really funny. But I will say this, don't watch it while you're having your dinner. It's really kind of, one of those episodes. It's a really funny episode as well. But that's my number 7. And my number 6 is Empty Orchestra. It's pretty much Inside Number Nine's answer to a musical episode where a couple of office workers are having a fun night in a karaoke booth, and they're just having a fun night listening to some Eagles, shouting out some show tunes. And what's really great about this episode is they use the device of the karaoke machine as a way, and the music as a way of kind of laying the groundwork for these characters' backstories, their hidden desires, their absolute, that they're in struggles. They're in struggles, their innermost desires. And it's all done through the use of music. And it's very well done. It may not be the first thing that people think of when they think of Inside Number 9, but it definitely is one of my favourites. I definitely love it, and that's my number 6. My number 5 is A Quiet Night In. When two thieves break into a luxuriously wealthy apartment of a wealthy couple to steal a priceless work of art, many roadblocks and physical hijinks follow. All they have to do is get in and get out as quickly and as quietly as possible. But this isn't going to be the case, because there's lots of different things getting in their way. So this episode takes a lot of its inspiration from the early silent films of Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, and there's even a little bit of the caper films of Blake Edwards, the man who did The Pink Panther and A Shot in the Dark and The Great Race. You definitely see a lot of that in here. Even in the poster, it gives you that sense of, oh, that's a very Blake Edwards style movie that they're illustrating with the poster for A Quiet Night In. And it's very funny. There's a lot of great choreography and almost a revolving door of narrative delights in this one. And let's just say A Quiet Night In is a proposal that I certainly wouldn't say no to in any given evening. So yeah, that's my number 5. And my number 4 is The Last Weekend. When couple Joe and Chaz, played by the show's creators, are overcome with tragedy, the couple decide to have one last weekend together before the inevitable end. Framed around the 5 stages of grief, this episode is a harrowing experience from beginning to end. Well, that's if you like your endings bittersweet. But this is a great episode. It's fantastic. It's well written, great performances, and a great shocking twist. So yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. That's my number 4. And my number 3 is The Referee's a Wanker. When a game between the United and the Rovers goes haywire, a referee oversees the match with other officials, must choose between his professional integrity or personal gain. In this funny and well-deserved observed episode into the interior lives of the referees. And it's funny with great characters, and it's just a really tightly written episode with a fantastic twist that will leave you itching for second half helpings. So this is a great episode overall. And that's my number 4. And my number 3 is Diddle Diddle Dumpling. When out jogging one day, David, played by Shearsmith, finds a shoe and develops an obsession with finding the shoe's original owner. This episode is a perfect example of using a goofy setup at first, but then it very slowly turns almost tragic as you begin to realise that he is going through to ridiculous lengths to not only find the shoe's owner, but also to protect it and care for it and cradle for it. And this particular episode does a great job of pulling the rug out from under you and really kind of turning a story that is a very goofy premise into a very harrowing tale of grief and repressed sadness and, just absolute tragedy. It's a really fantastic episode with great performances by Keely Hawkes and Shearsmith himself. It's a fantastic episode. It's my number 2. And my second favourite Inside Number 9 episode is The 12 Days of Christine. It first begins as a very ordinary exploration into one woman's life and love within the span of a year, but it becomes more surreal when Christine Clark, played by Sheridan Smith, is haunted by hallucinations of a man wearing a see-through mask. And that's all I really want to say about this episode, because this episode is a good one to go into cold, because honestly, this episode will have you definitely reaching for the tissues by the end. It's a fantastic exploration of a life and one person's, just entire legacy, entire life. It's a really fantastic episode, and I would highly recommend it. It's got a great performance by Sheridan Smith holding it all together, but the script is also very well written, and it's just very well shot and very well presented overall. So that's my number 2. But before we get to number 1, I want to give a shout out to some honourable mentions. My first one is Private View. When a group of strangers are invited to an art installation by deceased artists, the strangers are slowly picked off one by one by a black glove killer. Owing a lot of its influence to Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None and the giallo films of Dario Argento and Mario Bava, this episode of genre-bending thrills and chills will have you both laughing and screaming until you choke. And my Bernie Clifton's dressing room. When the double act Cheese and Crackers reunite for one last gig, the two men are thrown into a whirlwind where unexpected rivalries are finally addressed and many tears are shed. Misdirection. When an aspiring magician resorts to the unthinkable in order to be the best, little does he know that in the game of tricks and illusions, the price for taking risks is always to reap just what you sow. This is another entry where going in cold is key, because this episode is a fantastic study in what certain people are willing to do for the sake of ambition and fame. Love's Great Adventure. Christmas is a very joyous time of year, but it's also the hardest time of year for most people to get through. Written as a slice of life story focusing on a working class family, it's Mike Leigh meets the storytelling wizardry of Stephen Rees, worth the watch. Death Be Not Proud. When a couple move into a new flat, things get complicated when one of their previous residents makes an unexpected visit. What's become known as the Psychoville episode, this episode has a lot of fans of Stephen Rees's previous offering, including a one-scene show-stealing cameo by one of my favourite characters, Mr. Jelly. The Devil of Christmas. Deciding to spend Christmas in a remote cabin, a small family hears of Krampus, a demonic entity who, before taking badly behaved children to hell, toys with them first. This, coupled with Kathy and Julian's ever-waning trust as things go from bad to worse, The Devil of Christmas is a deviously clever callback to suspense serials of the 1970s. You come for the callbacks to 70s camp and on-set goofs and slip-ups, but you stay for the jaw-dropping twist ending, which should leave anyone with a good sense of humour in pieces. So, having gone through a lot of the honourable mentions, let's go straight away into our number 1. And my number 1 favourite Inside Number 9 episode is Wise Owl. Remember those creepy EPFIs from the 70s where they would warn children of certain dangers? Well, no one remembers them more, takes them more to heart than Ronnie, played by Shearsmith, who was especially affected by one involving a wise owl and a certain innocent owl. With a brilliant performance by Reese and a story of isolation and loneliness from an overly cautious mind turns far more sinister when a face from his past makes an unexpected visit. This episode is just a fascinating study in grief. It's such a fascinating study in trauma and what basically a person goes through when they go through a very harrowing experience, when they go through trauma. It's a fantastic episode. I've done an entire video on this one, but I definitely do think it's one of my favourite episodes of Inside Number 9, and it's why it's my number 1. And I hope you're all doing very well. This has been my list of my favourite Inside Number 9 episodes, and I hope you're all having a very good day. Take care, bye-bye for now.